Welcome to Soulful Saga channel, your ultimate path to success. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and uplifted. Let's dive in together. The turning point, a bully's awakening.
15 years old, she had already earned the title of the worst bully. Her peers feared her sharp tongue, and teachers dreaded her disruptive presence. She ruled the school halls with an iron will, reveling in the power she held over others. Her reputation wasn't just known among her classmates, but also whispered about in the faculty lounge. Sophie's bullying took many forms, mocking classmates for their looks, spreading rumors, and even sabotaging group projects. She enjoyed the control and the attention it brought her, never pausing to consider the harm she inflicted. For Sophie, life was about being on top, even if it meant stepping on others to get there. Her parents, however, had little idea of the havoc Sophie was wreaking at school. They were busy professionals, deeply absorbed in their demanding careers. Sophie's father, a high-powered lawyer, spent most of his days in courtrooms, while her mother, a marketing executive, traveled frequently for work. Their household was one of fleeting interactions, quick dinners, and hurried goodbyes. The truth about Sophie's behavior finally came to light during a critical parent-teacher meeting. Mrs. Carmichael, the school principal, had called Sophie's parents to discuss the numerous complaints lodged against her. The meeting room was tense as Mrs. Carmichael detailed Sophie's actions, the insults, the pranks, and the tears of her victims. Sophie's behavior is unacceptable, Mrs. Carmichael said firmly. We've given her multiple warnings, but the situation has only escalated. We're considering a suspension. Sophie sat in the room with her arms crossed, her defiant expression unwavering. Her parents, however, were stunned. They had no idea the extent of their daughter's behavior. Her father's jaw tightened, and her mother's eyes brimmed with concern. "Is there no other way?" her mother asked, her voice trembling. "Suspension could affect her future." Mrs. Carmichael hesitated. "We're willing to consider alternatives, but only if Sophie shows genuine remorse and a willingness to change." Her parents pleaded with the principal, promising to address Sophie's behavior at home. Reluctantly, Mrs. Carmichael agreed to hold off on the suspension, but only under the condition that Sophie would undergo counseling and participate in community service projects. As they left the school, Sophie's initial reaction was one of triumph. Her parents had saved her, and she felt invincible. However, she was unprepared for the conversation that awaited her at home. That evening, Sophie's parents called her into the living room. The atmosphere was somber. Her father leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly together, while her mother sat with her arms crossed, her expression one of deep disappointment. "Sophie, we need to talk," her father began, his voice firm but calm. "Do you understand the gravity of what happened today?" Sophie shrugged. "You got me out of trouble. What's the big deal?" Her mother's eyes flashed with anger. "The big deal, Sophie, is that your behavior is hurting people. Do you even realize the kind of pain you've caused?" Sophie looked away, unwilling to meet her mother's gaze. Her father continued, his tone heavier now. "We didn't step in today because we approve of what you've done. We stepped in because we believe you can do better. But this is your last chance, Sophie. If you don't change, there will be consequences, both at school and at home." Sophie's defiance began to waver. There was something in her father's voice that she hadn't heard before, disappointment mixed with hope. It was unsettling. Her mother added, "Do you know why we fought so hard for you today? It's not because we wanted to protect you from the consequences of your actions. It's because we love you, Sophie. But love doesn't mean letting you get away with everything. Love means helping you grow, even when it's hard." For the first time, Sophie felt a pang of guilt. Her parents' words struck a chord deep within her. They weren't angry because she had embarrassed them or because they had to take time out of their busy schedules. They were hurt because they cared. The following week, Sophie began attending counseling sessions as part of the school's conditions. At first, she resisted, treating the sessions as a waste of time, but her counselor, Mrs. Blake, was patient and perceptive. Sophie, Mrs. Blake said during one session, "Why do you think you feel the need to bully others?" Sophie hesitated. She had never really thought about it. "I don't know. It's just fun, I guess. Makes me feel powerful." Mrs. Blake nodded. "But does that power make you happy? Truly happy?" The question lingered in Sophie's mind long after the session ended. She began to reflect on her actions and the impact they had on others. Slowly, she started to see the faces of her victims, the tears, the humiliation, the fear. It wasn't a pretty picture. As part of her community service, Sophie was assigned to help at a local shelter for underprivileged children. Initially, she approached the task with reluctance, but over time, she found herself enjoying the work. The children's laughter and resilience humbled her. For the first time, she felt a sense of fulfillment that wasn't tied to tearing others down. One day, Sophie came home from the shelter and sat down with her parents. "I think I understand now," she said quietly, "why you reacted the way you did." Her father looked at her curiously. "Go on." Sophie took a deep breath. "You stepped in because you believe in me, even when I've been horrible. You want me to be better because you care, not just about how I'm doing now, but about the kind of person I'll become." Her mother's eyes softened. "That's exactly right, Sophie. Being a parent means making tough decisions, not because it's easy, but because it's what's best for you." From that day forward, Sophie committed herself to change. She apologized to her classmates, one by one, acknowledging the pain she had caused. It wasn't easy, and not everyone was quick to forgive. But over time, her sincerity won them over. She became an advocate for kindness, using her experiences to help others understand the importance of empathy and respect. Sophie's journey wasn't without its challenges, but it was a testament to the power of responsibility and the ability to change. Her story became a source of inspiration for her peers, a reminder that it's never too late to turn things around. As Sophie stood on stage at her high school graduation, delivering a speech about growth and redemption, her parents watched with pride. They had seen their daughter transform from a bully into a young woman who understood the value of compassion. "Change starts with a single step," Sophie said, her voice steady and confident. "And sometimes that step is the hardest one to take. But it's worth it." The audience erupted into applause, and Sophie's parents exchanged a knowing glance. Their daughter had not only learned a powerful lesson, she had taught one to everyone around her,